If Harley-Davidson actually brings back the Shovelhead in 2026, it won't be about performance. And that's exactly why it could work. When I first heard people talking about a possible modern Harley-Davidson Shovelhead revival, my first reaction wasn't excitement, it was confusion. Why bring back one of the most oil-leaking, personality-heavy engines in Harley history? But then I thought about it differently. Harley doesn't need another spec sheet monster. They already have the Harley-Davidson Milwaukee 8 platform doing that job. What they don't have is something raw, mechanical, slightly imperfect. And that's where a 2026 Shovelhead could make sense. When I compare it to something like the Harley-Davidson Pan America 1250, the contrast is wild. The Pan America feels engineered to compete. It's precise, fast, modern, almost clinical. A Shovelhead revival would be the opposite. I noticed something about today's Harley lineup. Even the cruisers feel refined. The vibrations are controlled, the fueling is smooth, the bikes behave well. That's great for daily riding, but it also removes some of the attitude people romanticize about old Harleys. Most people miss this. Nostalgia isn't about speed, it's about feeling. The original Shovelhead wasn't perfect. It ran hot, it shook, it demanded attention. But that struggle created attachment. You didn't just ride it, you lived with it. If Harley brings it back, I doubt they'll copy the old engine exactly. Emissions alone would kill that idea. But imagine a limited production bike styled around that era with modern internals but old-school character tuning. Slightly rough idle, more mechanical sound, less electronic filtering. That would be interesting. One big misconception is that younger riders only care about horsepower and tech. I don't buy that. I've compared modern high-tech bikes to simpler retro machines, and sometimes the simpler one sticks in my mind longer. Why? Because it feels intentional. If Harley positioned a 2026 Shovelhead as a heritage machine rather than a daily commuter, expectations would shift. It wouldn't need to outrun anything. It would just need to create an experience. Here's the risk, though. If they over-modernize it, it loses the point. If they under-modernize it, reliability becomes a problem. That balance is everything. I've seen brands try to revive legends before. Sometimes it feels forced, a badge-engineered nostalgia grab. That would kill the Shovelhead name instantly. But if they lean into craftsmanship, visible cooling fins, classic paint schemes, minimal screens, analog gauges, it could stand out in a world of TFT dashboards. And here's a practical takeaway for riders watching this. Don't judge a potential Shovelhead by specs. If this bike ever appears, judge it by how it makes you feel at idle, at low RPM, rolling through town at 35 miles per hour. That's where it would live. Another thing people overlook is customization culture. The original Shovelhead era exploded because of how customizable those bikes were. Choppers, bobbers, club builds, the engine became a canvas. If Harley revives it but locks it down with complex electronics and limited tuning access, that culture won't return. But if they design it to invite modification, that's a different story. I compared this idea to what happened when retro muscle cars came back in the car world. The successful ones weren't replicas, they were modern cars with strong visual DNA and emotional callbacks. Harley would need to do the same. And let's be honest, this wouldn't be a cheap bike. If it lands around premium softail pricing, it won't be for first-time riders. It'll be for enthusiasts, collectors, riders who already own something practical. Which might actually help it, because then it doesn't have to justify itself logically. It just has to justify itself emotionally. What surprised me most while thinking about this is that a Shovelhead revival wouldn't compete with Japanese cruisers or even other Harleys. It would compete with the idea of what Harley used to represent. That's a tough battle. But if 2026 Harley-Davidson wants to remind people who they are, bringing back a symbol like the Shovelhead, done carefully, could say more than launching another high-horsepower touring bike ever could. Would I buy one? If it truly felt alive, maybe. Not because it's the fastest, but because some machines aren't meant to be measured. They're meant to be felt.